Okay, everybody, take a deep breath in the nose, out of the mouth, get relaxed, maybe hit pause, go get a cup of tea or a drink, whatever you like. So I'm going to crack open some eggs here, pull your brain apart, rewire it, upgrade it, explain to you implosive technology of the mind, magic, what carrier waves are really, channels, implosion, Dan Winter's work, some of Santos Bonacci's work. We're going to get into the electric and magnetic spectrum again. We're going to get into a lot of different things here, but as I always do these new videos, as I make another one, I'm condensing down all of the information as much as I can from every other video that I've made and put it into what this is. And this also includes new things. And it's really chopping off all of the excess and getting right to the most basic, fundamental ideas you need to understand about who you are, how to create reality, and what magic is. So we need to look at teachers, and we need to look at... See, what I'm doing here is I'm trying to deliver something from a source, from the source. I don't use notes. I don't have a notebook by my side. I mean, there are times I do. I mean, these images help me once in a while to just stay the course, to give you information. But the ideas here that I want to get across about what stop limiters are, stop limiters of consciousness, and what those are as teachers and beings, and different movements such as the New Age movement, even veganism, excuse me. Anybody with the more symbols somebody has, the more those are in and of themselves stop limiters to consciousness. And these things can be good, they can be, but they also can be constraining to your consciousness. It's the difference between coming from what I would call the prime source and what is the false source of light. And we'll get further into exactly what that means. But it really means something along the lines of, if you're walking through the forest at night and someone has an electrical flashlight, yes, that is beneficial, but that is a false light. It has something to do with the electricity and whether or not the source of the light comes from the internal space. And looking at these technologies outside of us as what they are, and looking at these channels, I really want to kind of start here. I think this will really get everybody on the right page for looking at your brain different. Because again, your brain isn't looking at itself. You're looking at your brain. If you stand behind yourself, if you stand above yourself and observe your physicality, that's one thing. That's one way of accessing consciousness. But if you can stand behind your brain and say, what is it doing the thinking? Then you separate yourself from the ideas, the programs, the signals and the waves that are occurring. You separate yourself from that. So you observe it. And that's coming from more close to the source, more of the originality of whatever it is that speaks, whatever imbues, whatever energy is. This gets into what Negentropy is, and the philosophy that people have of the universe being mechanical as some sort of wind-up toy, which is ridiculous in and of itself. To believe that somehow material things can make consciousness, when that's blasphemy. Blasphemy against self, against creation of whatever you are. Because creation will always take precedence over matter. It moves matter. People's physicality isn't what moved anything. People's minds, whatever it was behind the mind, told the mind something, and then the physical body made an action. It was never the other way around. You're not made of material, you make material. That's one of these things people really need to start to understand, to understand, and then to work with by overstanding, to comprehend in a way by imploding these energies into self and knowing that the four elements come out of you and then you participate with them. That it is not the other way around. That there's no real division in the world. That it's just an up and down ladder, not a left and right thing. So a carrier wave is what brings you the radio station that you're listening to. You turn that dial into 98 FM. And it's carrying music, which is a bunch of different signals, a bunch of different frequencies. But that carrier wave is what brings you that information. That carrier is in a specific location. It is locked into that frequency. It doesn't come from the source. It's a channel, just like a channeler. While they might have something wonderful and expansive to say, they are only on one frequency. They're only one carrier wave. And there's limits to what they're capable of accessing because they're not accessing the source. They're accessing a false light. They're accessing something that is electronically or magnetically or consciously limited. We have to think of it as a carrier wave is in surfing. The wave itself is the carrier and the person upon it is the information. And so we have to look at these people that provide our information in all walks of life, whether they're a first grade teacher, a second grade teacher, you can think of it that way. Surely the first grade teacher has a stop limit to what they can provide as information to the first grader, and so on and so forth, into any avenue of life. But the people, the access points to source code beyond yourself because you are the source code, but most people don't accept that. So they go to other places to find wisdom, which is just fine and dandy. It's to take those pieces and implement them into your own consciousness. But these people that are mystics, these really high-level yogis that have touched the source, that can get outside of carrier waves. This even goes farther into, I'm going to get into what the magic is and imploding information and what it is to get out of body and what consciousness is there, what the soul is, and being able to access the soul. And again, this soul versus soul, meaning the sun soul versus the earth soil, is one of the biggest hindering things that we have on the planet. That is the number one duality consciousness that is delivered to us all. You really need to think about that again. The earth as the soil is the Saturnian consciousness of what time is, and it's delivered as this is all there is. It's the material world. And then you have the people that speak of all of these high-level conscious, it's always the people with the holy books that talk about, but the Jesus and this and that, and they're always talking about this high-level energy above it. And that's the separation. But yet, none of these people speaking of these Jesus figures are doing anything Jesus-like. Because if they were, they wouldn't be speaking it. They would be applying that technology of what it is to be the fire, to be the mystic. But again, even what they've all missed is they're sitting here in the Saturnian world. They're sitting here with the earth-based body. So it's putting these two things together. The fire, which is the red, which goes up, and the water, which is the blue, which is, the source beneath. So it's the blue and the red pill, and everywhere you look, those are the two forces. And it's always broke down to that. But again, to be of the world, to think that the Saturnian idea is all there is, this world is hard knock, and you can feel it, and you can participate in it. And that takes you to the end. And when you get out of body and you're done with this body, when you so choose, if you're at a higher level, if you're not and you're a hedonist and you believe in only of this material world, you're going to have a really challenging time at the end of your life. to do what Dan Winter suggests, and that's to learn how to take your memory through death. Because you could have this entire experience for 72 years and it could be wonderful, and in all ways you could be almost a god here. Then you wake up and you forgot this dream and you have no source. You have no idea what you were or what you did. Now you start from the beginning again. You have no recollection. It's the idea, and here it is again encompassed in another way. They say you chase the goddess of money and the goddess of wisdom will run away. But if you chase the goddess of wisdom, the goddess of money is soon to follow. And what does that mean practically? It means that if you sit here and you chase money, you chase earth, you chase the physical object on this planet, you keep doing that and have a fun time. But know that when you're sitting there on your deathbed, if that's because the earth will only take you to death. If you get salty, if you become salt, then you'll go right back there. You'll lose your consciousness. You'll have no wisdom. So when you wake up in the morning, when you wake up in your next life, when you wake up wherever it is, you'll have no recollection. You'll have little bits and pieces you'll find along the way, but if you go the other direction, you have the consciousness to be able to have the consciousness of what it is that your experience was here and take it with you. And you could choose to go and come as you see fit, and that has to do with what the mystics do. When you go to bed at night, when you get out of body, that is a whole new arena of comprehension and understanding and knowing what you are as a spirit. The next level is knowing that spirit is connected to the larger soul. So again, the soul is the big everything, and the spirit is what divides itself up into what you are, and the physical manifest world is what you participate with. So if you start from the idea that you're the physical manifest world, all that thing falls apart. That goes right back to the earth. So again, this is all to get people to the understanding of what you are and how to access that, how to come closer and bind yourself to the empty space, I guess it would be, to be part and parcel of the whole experience, to be the physical containment vessel while at the same time being everything else. And that has to do with what your aura is, what your auric field is, your energy system outside of you, your electrical charge within you. This gets into why I always speak on what the salt is, and why, if we are the salt of the earth, then why should we be consuming it more? And what these electrical charges are, we'll get into this next page in a second here, which has to do with what the chakras are and how we've been misled on some things. And let's get back here into centripetal force and the energy of spinning something around, and what a tornado is, and what your consciousness is. As someone sits there, and this goes into what meditation is, and a lot of people have this. Let me just jump to the next page, because I think this is probably a good time to do it here. Let's go right here. And here's what occurs sometimes. People have thought that the lowest chakra is in your bowel, just beneath your bowels, in your balls, right? And everybody sits down. They sit down, and so what they've done is they've put all of this energy into the position of sitting down, and they've eliminated their legs. I'm trying to put this in the correct way. Everyone that's walking around this planet is literally missing their legs. You think you can move around without knees and ankles? Why do you think on the bottom of your foot it's called your soul? Yet, here's what happens. We put these rubber shoes on, and if we put these rubber shoes on, there's no more connection to the earth from the soil to your sole of your foot. So everything from the sole of your foot all the way up to the next entry point of your body, which is your taint, which is why there's a spiral there just like on top of your head, that becomes the next entry point into your temple. Literally, people don't have any legs as they're walking around. There's no connection with their legs. People could be doing all sorts of things that they wouldn't be normally doing if they put rubber on their feet. In the most physical way, you can see people walking along paths they would otherwise not walk. Again, that is the most physical way you can see it. But from a electrical charge, from a spiritual and a mental standpoint, if you had bare feet, you'd be doing much different things. You would be feeling the earth. You would be feeling what you were doing. You'd be connected with your soul, the soles of your feet. But even now, we have this belief, everybody in these communities, and this has to do with this new age movement and love and light, and these people are they've lost it. They don't even realize as they're walking around going to their yoga class with their rubber shoes on, doing all of these things which are somewhat helpful. They don't even understand the basic function of what the body is. Now, once you put your feet on the ground, where do you think your lowest chakra is? It's not in your ass, it's not in your balls, it's not in your vagina, it's not in your dick. It doesn't work that way. It's connected to your feet now. So now you can get into what are the pillars and what are those energy centers. Sit down all you want, but if it takes you sitting down to be spiritual, to be conscious, then we're missing the whole lot of the game. Everybody sits there and they're going to sit in their yogic posture and they're going to be comfortable, and you walk down the street and they see you with your long hair and your whatever you do, and they're like, "Oh, do you meditate?" People ask me that all the time. Do you do yoga? Do you meditate? And I'm like, I'm meditating right now. What didn't you see? The yogic idea, it's like, because they go to a class and put their they put their spine to the ground, which is perfectly fine, and it's definitely part of it. It's like if you've ever been to one of those parties, have you ever been to a rave? They tell you, here, take this balloon, take this helium. If we really want to get into that, we can do that another time. Sit before you hit. Sit before you hit. Yeah, sit down so that when the consciousness and the energy goes up your spine into your brain, that you don't fall over. But the practice needs to be a walking meditation. The real practice needs to be getting people's feet on the ground. If you think you can walk around all day and you're living a bipolar life, you put these rubber soles on and you've cut off your legs in every way. A lot of people talk about ways of doing this, that you can use your imagination even if you're on a plane to ground yourself out, and that's a great way to do it. But one of the most basic fundamental things we can do is to really start to take our shoes off. Put your feet on the ground. And even the rest of the day, you can't think that you're low. Why do you think people get stuck in the red chakra in there? Well, if we're telling everybody, oh, your life starts in the bowels, it starts right here in the sexual organs. If we say that your life starts there, the mentality is completely different. Whoa, wow, that's really hot right there. But if you tell someone, oh no, your reality starts in your feet, well, what can you do there? Well, now you can move, you can dance, you can walk. There's a whole different exploration of consciousness that is movement based. But now if you're intertwined with someone in a sexual union and you believe that you're connected via the chakra of the red, the lowest chakra, and you believe that's the genitals, then you can't move. Are you people understanding what I'm saying? I hope you are, because this is of extreme importance for people to comprehend this idea. If you think that the lowest chakra, I'm going to say this again because it is that important, and you think this 7-layered chakra system, which is the 7 days of the week, if you think these 7 colors are all there are to it, and most people, and I'm going to go even deeper on this in another video, and we're going to talk about the sixth sense and the 6 senses and the 6 entry points to your house above your mouth, and I'm going to really blow your mind there. I might even do it at the end of this one. But if we don't consider that our legs are 2 pillars for movement, which have to do with the reason for living, because if we were just plants, we would have no legs. If our lowest chakra was just our genital situation, that would bind us to someone in a specific location, and we couldn't move from that. Now, if we start to see our feet as where our soul is, as where our body begins, where our experience begins, it changes things. If we start to look at our hands as chakras as well, this goes even to another level. And I don't really want to go all this way to people, but think about why you shake hands, or why you touch someone, because you have energy centers in your hand, and these are as important, if not more important, than your feet. But everybody wants to sit down and meditate and have a polar, dual pole life where they sit down in class and at home, and they're in some sort of yogic stance, and they're living this life that is so holy, and then all of a sudden they put their shoes on, go to work, and they totally have completely forgot that their life has anything to do with that. And this is about, again, this is always binding these dual things together. What we consider the magnetic and the electric, or what we consider the male and the female, or what we consider a work. People say work-life balance. Well, no one has a work-life balance. You have a life, and inside of that life you have work. And yeah, maybe that work isn't something that right now you thoroughly enjoy, but by binding these pieces of information together, these ideas of how life exists, if we put ourselves in the biggest bubble possible, which is the galaxy, and then put ourselves second in line, like as saying, hey, well, I'm in this galaxy, I'm in this universe, and this is my experience, and my job is inside of me, well, then you have a different idea. Rather than saying work-life balance, you're like putting yourself next to your job, and that right there it goes more into the polar complexes and bipolarism that people have in their minds about everything. So let's go a little farther into Dan Winter's work and this idea that, let's see what else I got here. Oh, here we go. I think this might help you guys. So we talk about negentropy and what entropy is, and we have this philosophy, most people do. It doesn't matter if you came from a scientific background or from you were created by something background. There is an idea that there is an end to things, that things are slowly winding down. But yet anywhere you look in nature, you can see things spinning upward. You can see life occurring. You can see energy being generated. You can see something come out of nothing all of the time. You witness it every day. And you see entropy happen because systems were designed. How to put this? People kill themselves. People die because they've put things into their system that are literally causing entropy to happen. Everything that I speak about, everything that I'm trying to disclose, unveil to people, is immortality and consciousness, and getting yourself into an idea of what negentropy is. That you can change, see, where you are in consciousness, and this whole idea of most people saying, oh, there's these evil forces and there's these forces. It's a ladder. It goes in both ways. You can be entropic, or you can be negentropic. You can spiral down and people die that way, and people apparently disappear in the other direction. There's plenty of people you don't know if that, you can't be sure. Did that person really die? Did that person? Yeah, in either way, you don't know it, because it's just about changing and transforming states. It's not as basic as, say, what a butterfly is and where that came from as a caterpillar. That can occur, and you can think about, as we get a little farther into this, what occurs when you get out of body at night. Well, if you're a caterpillar, if your body is a caterpillar and you get out of body at night and you fly around, well, aren't you that butterfly? And if that's what happens when you're dreaming, let's talk about condensation or collapsing of time. Let's talk about centripetal force and what occurs and why time dilation is so interesting. So this is why you can have a dream that it seemed like hours, but you woke up and it was a 2-minute nap. Because you were outside of time. You were in a place where time didn't exist. And you were constructing. You were constructing physical objects inside of a scape of what time is. And getting into like all of the language and words and that just try to describe this indescribable time frame. It gets into how to produce magic, how to produce calendars, how to produce your own time. And I've done many videos on this. And this idea of what magic is, and taking energy from a room, energy from whatever space you're in, and imploding that into yourself. And that's what you do when you're sleeping. And that's a way that you get out of body. That's a way that your spirit comes undone from your physical format. So now your physical body is on the earth, your spirit is in between the soul and your body, and you're able to walk around that way. There's your cords, there's your energy. But then you wake up and you're back into this body, you still have the spirit. And there's people that can do it to the level, and these are what you'd call the realized yogis, the gurus, the ones that can do some extra next level things. Because what they're doing is they've already accessed and accepted their control as a Time Lord. They've accepted what time is, and time is only an outpouring of the four elements. Without the elementals, you have no time. There's nothing. If you're a spirit, time doesn't exist. How could it? You can only have time through the physical objects around you. You can only understand how far something is by a tree being here and a tree being there. Now you can say, oh, that's that distance. Oh, that's how long it takes to get from there to there. You're only using space and time and binding them together by a physical object. Without those physical objects, which you are when you're a spirit, you become so empty of those physical objects that time, how can it exist? You create it. And so we implode all of these energies into ourselves when we sleep, and we can do this on a piece of paper. We can do this when we design out our own clocks. And so what does it mean to be on this planet, on this plane where we are now, and all of the things that seem to be demonic and things to be angelic? Well, those will always exist, but you can participate in any part of that, any one of those scales, any one of those notes, any one of those places. And by collapsing it all into self, and this gets into more theoretical, what does this even mean? Well, if again, I have about 200 videos out there. Start watching them. It's what many of us do. It's what everyone does anyways. You just can't recall your dreams. You might not be able to recall being out of body, but you have. But then you get pulled back into the body, and there's a magnetic force field that sucks that right out of you. It sucks the memory right out of you. And if you get into what the memory is, I've done many videos that has to do with water and light. And if your light codes that you participated with while you were out of body get aggravated or readjusted as it comes through the system, which is your body, the electrical magnetic system, yeah, it's just like a Faraday cage. If you think of it, putting something inside of a Faraday cage is what your brain is, and your body is the Faraday cage. Things can't come in or out unless, of course, you can get on the right frequency. So it's turning yourself into not only a Faraday cage, but in the opposite direction, a piece of organite. You are both of them already. You're a sandwiched piece of inorganic and organic material. You're a sandwiched piece of something that is considered inorganic and organic, dead and living. You're a sandwich of these things. Spirit and physical body. You're a sandwich of what's above, as in the consciousness of the etheric mystical being, and the physical world, which is the Saturnian Time Lord world. You're already part of both of it. But most people don't have any idea how to access the higher consciousness. And this is what I'm trying to get to people. I'm trying to deliver this simple concept. And it's not about you need to go buy 1,000 things. It's not that. The access point is not out there. The access point is already in you. And the only thing that we've done is we've put things in the way of the access. So if we take a look at the little picture here of the guy sitting in full lotus with the double Taurus, if you put, as I've done in a couple other videos, if you put something in this toroidal field, a piece of, here we go, if you put a piece of energy in here, you put a piece of a mental block or a physical block, it's throwing off the field. Then you can't access it. That's the point of stopping. I did a whole video on this, and I don't want to go too deep on it. But this is what we do. We put things into our consciousness. Pieces of salt, pieces of metals, pieces of information. And it keeps us from having direct access to the entire source code. If this is your soul, up here, here's your soul, and here is coming into the portal, and here starts to form what is your spirit. Here becomes your spirit, and it spits you out here as your person, which is your physical matter, material. Here is how it all works. Here is that, and here is that. So here's the people right here that participate with the upside down Saturnian goat god, the bulls right there. There's your horns, and it's pointing to what they want. There's their tornado, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's part of the world. And then there's people that go, they try to float up here. They're on this Christ consciousness, and we're the physical world doesn't exist, and we're just all, and that's clueless. They're both, but binding them together, what do you get? You get the idea of what the material world is and what the soul provides. But if you start screwing up and putting too much material in, which is what these people have done in this upside down world, they keep putting more material in. So the more material densifies them. It densifies their physical body. It densifies their spirit. And it gets in the way of them accessing the soul. They have what is called access to, this goes into like Saturnian brotherhoods and all of this. They get access to more physical material world through a false light, through a false code. Here, take this. It has energy from a battery. Take this. It has this electrical device. Here, take this. And it's the L's. It's only one part of it. It's not, when I say false, I'm not saying wrong. It's just not the whole thing. And there's these people too that have this other light that is from the Most High. But they don't even come down here. They don't even screw with us. They just go sit in their little caves, and they don't hang out down here. That's why you see them as people talk about, oh, they were able to see someone from the afterlife. They were able to see a ghost. Yeah, it's because those people were like, nope, not coming back down to this material level. I'm not getting stuck down there again. And so what they did is they just stuck up here. And so you can only see them in certain places. And then what you have is you have the mystics. They said, nope, screw it, we're doing the whole thing. We're coming down here in physical format, accessing the spirit, accessing the soul, binding it together. And that's the difference. You have these souls that you see as just seemingly figments that people, I know I saw it, I know I interacted with it, which you did, but it was so etheric. And then you have these things that are so physical, so demonic, and it's boom, it's right there. And those are true too. But there's something that sits in the middle, and we're trying to show you how to access that through, here we go, through seeing yourself as the point right here. Here we go. The point inside of your field, which would be spitting out things this way. There it is again. That's where you need to be. That's the point of where time is. That's the place that you are on Earth. Like getting outside of these concepts of duality, getting outside of these concepts of something being separate. Because if you want, it's just fine. Because you're going to, if you don't make a choice at the end of your life, you will make a choice to go into the higher realms. That's where you'll go. And then from there, and if you're too dense, you might go into the lower realms if you really want to get at it. If you've been participating solely in, this is the whole idea of people saying, if someone's being has been overtaken by a demonic spirit. Well, if they're into density, yeah, they're going to get pulled down into lower realms. So you're going to go one way or the other at the end, or you can implode all of your energy and understanding of what perception of duality is into where you are now. Understand that these carrier waves, and I want to go farther on this. We've kind of got a little esoteric, a little bit crazy, I can tell for some people. But let's just try to get back to baseline here. Talk about these teachers again, and what these stop losses are. These points of if you think of it in degrees, up and down, and who these purveyors of conscious knowledge are and what they can and they're allowed to, it just has to, it's kind of like the hundredth monkey of the information they're going to provide to you is only to what level you could handle. Your own consciousness will stop them from, and the consciousness of humanity as a whole. And that's another thing that goes into it. If you're listening to Bashar, I listen to him a lot, but then you hear, I've heard all of these channelers that they actually don't speak about flat Earth. They don't speak about this, and that immediately is like, oh, and I listen to them again and again. I'm like, wow, this is interesting. They're not really saying much tangible. They're not saying much that I can apply to my life. They're like on this love and light train to nowhere. Well, and it's like, yeah, there's something to be taken from that. Just like there's something to be gained from all sorts of your interactions with people and with ideas. But these people are underneath. Once again, there's a limit. There's a stop limit to what they can provide because of the carrier wave they're on. You're not going to be getting channel 104 out of them if they're on channel 97. And to be able to access the entire thing, which is the soul code, which is the whole thing, that's having access to all the stations simultaneously, stopping time and picking from those stations what you'd like. And that is the goal for everyone. But these people, again, we have to start to take things for what they are, take things for how they sit, what value they offer, and not get caught up in the stagnation that these things are. A lot of these things are not Bashar has been saying the same thing since I don't know when. It's the same exact message. It's like, it reminds me of, was it Alan Watts that said, oh, drugs are like an answering machine. You get the message and then you hang up the phone. Understand, these channels are channels. You turn the radio station on, got the message, turn it off. You take the drug, you got the message, okay, we got that information. Don't repeat that grade. Don't repeat that. There's no... Yeah, some people got to go back and repeat things. Sometimes you need to hear it again. Plenty of people that... I've done it myself with plenty of things. Everyone does. But once you've understood the knowledge, put that into your basket and carry it along until you can build it up all in your informational construct of how reality works, and then you learn how to apply it. So what else haven't I covered here? The actual magic and centripetal force, which was one of the major things. Here's what happens during magic, and this has to do with the video that I made as a little teaser for this, which was the rice experiment. How is it that from quite a distance, those things did what I expected them and wanted them to? How is it that any magic could occur? How is it that a tornado occurs? So it has to do with this point of centered information and focus. And it's what occurs whenever someone sits into a meditation, whenever someone sits at their altar. If they really understood the dynamics of what was going on, they could even apply it even more so. And see, I go at these things from showing people how it all works so you can have the blueprint for it, because there's no use in going and, yeah, it's great to just do magic and you're like, oh, that's great, I'm glad I could do the magic and that happened and I believe in it. That's grand. But if you can look at it and see the blueprint and understand completely how it works, then it has multitudes more power. It gives you more control. It gives you more precision to be able to change dials, to dial into even more precise frequencies. Because now if you know what's happening, is if by sitting there, what you're doing is you're taking a deep breath in, and you're taking an electrical charge, and you're pulling in literal pieces of the universe into yourself to bind up into an etheric object that now you're going to put energy into by using the magnetic pulses of your brain as you're thinking something. You're literally charging the electrical frequency that you've brought into your body and into your spine, and when you breathe it out into the universe. And when you do it on a piece of paper and you take your pencil and you're drawing that circle, now you've pulled the energy into a circle. Look at the way the Mayan calendar was made. Look at the drawing a circle, what it does, the motion of the hands. Now put that all together into applying centripetal force into an idea. What do you think happens with the energy in your body? It turns into an egg if you're a woman and turns into a semen if you're a man, is centripetal force of all of the consciousness of that you had throughout your entire life, just imbued into a tiny little seed, which is the same thing that a tree does when it produces a nut that gets planted into the earth. It uses centripetal force and it just pulls until it bursts out on the other side as the reflective mirror. You take the sun energy of the soul and put it into a tiny little seed and put it into the earth, which is the soil, as a black reflective mirror, and it implodes itself and comes out the other side of the mirror as everything that was put into it. And that's what you do with magic. That's what you do with your consciousness. That's how all of life works. Yeah, I just blasted that out there for you. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Listen to it again if you need to, but whew, that was good stuff. Cheers, y'all.